I landed a library job, faced sabotage from a coworker, and exposed her after discovering her nude photos taken at work. I secured a position at the local library during the summer of 2016. Prepare yourselves, everyone, as to truly grasp the artistic nature of my revenge. This narrative is going to be an extensive and delightful journey. At that time, I was a financially struggling undergraduate student fresh out of a harmful relationship and plagued with anxiety. In my new living circumstances, I needed to bring in more income than I was earning as a tutor at the college writing center. Thus, I sought part-time employment as a shelver during the mornings before attending my classes. While I referred to it as a local library, the reality was slightly more intricate. The library system I was part of was among the finest in its region of the United States. We had about a dozen branches. The main library boasted a coffee shop, an indoor theater, and a sub-basement filled with books, including a suspiciously well-maintained underground bunker containing important state documents. I worked at one of the larger branches, which was the second largest in terms of collection and the only one outside the primary library equipped with a maker lab. I landed this job thanks to the kindness of some benevolent deity, along with a college friend who worked in the maker lab and could endorse my character. After a short training phase at the main library, I arrived for my first official day, bringing a box of donuts for my colleagues, my face beaming at 6 in the morning. Unfortunately, my manager was late. Enter the children's librarian, who arrived early to prepare for story time and allowed my anxious self to enter. Now we meet our antagonist, who I will refer to as my least favorite character from Friends, Monica. From the very beginning, Monica was not fond of me. This animosity stemmed in part from external circumstances beyond my control, which I later discovered one of her acquaintances had applied for the shelver position, but was not hired since Monica's endorsement did not hold as much weight as that of my friend, compounded by my superior qualifications. Additionally, she resented me because, and I kid you not, I brought donuts. You see, she worked dual jobs, one as a barista at the coffee shop and bakery across the parking lot, and the other as a circulation assistant at the library. She was reportedly displeased with my choice to bring donuts from a competing breakfast establishment while others declined her bagels. Side note, who truly enjoys bagels anyway? Fortunately for me, I didn't have much interaction with Monica initially. She took on a mid-shift, arriving when I was clocking out, which did not prevent her from ensuring I felt her animosity. She often lingered in front of my work locker, making it difficult for me to gather my belongings and leave in time for my classes or my second job. As the months went by, during the Christmas season, a couple of our part-time branch assistants opted to retire. This predicament left us needing to fill 2 positions just as we approached a busy holiday break for the library. Despite having only been a shelver since late summer, something within me, specifically 4 shots of Jack Daniels at 2 a.m., compelled me to apply for the position anyway. Again, through the grace of some benevolent deity and the backing of several individuals, I was hired. This seems like a suitable place to mention my assistant manager, who was genuinely pleasant. He had only been in his role for a couple of months prior to me, and noted that I was the first person he had ever trained in both shelving and the assistant position. The unfortunate reality was that being trained by someone still learning himself was quite evident. My ability to perform my role was also obstructed by Monica, who made several attempts to undermine me. She would provide me with incorrect information or remain silent when she was aware I had been misinformed. The issue was that these missteps often backfired. When Monica told me something false, I ensured to correct her every time. I earned the assistant position partly due to my submission of a programming outline for a weekly anime club at the library. Yes, I admit I'm a nerd, but I'm on Reddit, which had received approval but was stalled in its execution. The children's librarian viewed me as someone capable of revitalizing our teen programming, further aggravating Monica, who was in charge of the current programming for teens, which consisted of little more than an after-school study hall. Considering we were the second largest library branch in our system, higher expectations were in place. Encroaching on her teens was perceived as an act of war, even though I pointed out that she had other duties piling up at the library due to her glorified babysitting. I was also chosen for tasks that made me popular among the library's staff. When other branches faced staffing shortages, our branch was often asked if we could provide someone to assist, a role I frequently took up during the winter for quite a trivial reason. I drove a Jeep, making my four-wheel drive valuable for navigating unplowed roads. In contrast, Monica relied on public transportation, significantly reducing her chances of being selected. Consequently, I made more friends at other branches. What can I say? I'm charismatic. It didn't hurt that I wasn't glued to my phone, whereas Monica received regular reprimands for her excessive usage. I'm not referring to occasional checks throughout the hour. I mean every 5 minutes texting, scrolling through Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, Vine, etc. She utilized her phone behind the desk, in the back, between the stacks, during book check-ins. And part of the reason she enjoyed overseeing the teens was because she could use her phone with little interruption for an hour and a half. There was even a moment when she lost her phone, called it from the library phone, and when that didn't work, she got on the phone with her sister to activate her "Where's my phone?" feature from home, causing us to be overwhelmed up front while she walked her sister through the steps. Now that you are sufficiently informed and ready for the dramatic reveal, let me explain how Monica managed to get our assistant manager terminated. I incorrectly processed a library card. A patron came in, and due to a series of absurd circumstances involving a previous security action against him and a very nondescript name, I confused some accounts, assigned a new card to the wrong one, and had to start over with a new application. Altogether, I spent 30 minutes sorting this out, only to rush to my break immediately afterward, as I was 20 minutes from clocking out and needed to take a quick 15-minute break. In my haste, I accidentally left the invalid library card on the counter. When I returned, it was gone. I panicked. I searched desperately for it during the 10 minutes before I had to leave for class. Unable to find it, I became so overwhelmed with anxiety about its whereabouts that I failed to notify anyone about what had occurred. A significant error, but anxiety has its grip. Upon returning to work a couple of days later, I learned through an email that it had been found slipped back in with the other new, unassigned library cards. I was certain that, among all the possible places I could have left it, it wouldn't have ended up there. I realized that Monica was the one working at that computer when I returned from my break. How does this lead to our assistant manager being fired, you may wonder? Well, I was the very first and only assistant he had trained, as we had hired our other assistant from within the organization, which made my mistake a significant blunder on both his and my records. At this juncture, I decided to leave the library. I was beginning to face criticism from my manager about other unrelated issues tied to my mental health days, and I had received a promotion at the college writing center, earning better pay, so I opted to move on. Evidently, they terminated my assistant manager not long afterward, forcing him to uproot his family, who had relocated for his new job, and relocate to another state. I acknowledged that part of this was due to my error, but primarily it was perceived as if I had hidden the cards subsequent to the incident. Fast forward to January of 2018, and it's time to prepare for the wild revelations to unfold. While scrolling through Twitter on my lunch break, I noticed a notification indicating that someone had liked a series of tweets from nearly 4 months earlier. That was unusual in itself, considering I had been quite active on Twitter back then, causing those tweets to be buried beneath at least 500 others. They pertained to a conversation I had with someone who worked at the library, who had left shortly after I did, in which I was expressing frustrations regarding poor management. This behavior was distinctly uncharacteristic of my Twitter presence. Upon checking who had liked the tweets, I was astonished to discover it was, of all people, Monica. As I browsed her account, I observed some rather intriguing details. The Twitter account she used to like those tweets was a not safe for work BDSM account. To my surprise, I encountered far more of Monica that day than I ever wished to see. However, upon scrutinizing some of the photos, despite wanting to bleach my eyes, I took a couple of screenshots and saved them to my laptop before returning to work. Later that day, I sent her a message on Facebook. Honestly, I was curious as to how she had found me on Twitter. At the time, I wasn't using my actual name, and I was posting a plethora of provocative content about the government material for which anonymity was crucial. In essence, I was shocked that she tracked me down and felt it necessary to identify the source of the leak. When I confronted her, she became defensive and rude, claiming nobody cared about my writings, that I should not talk bad about her work family, and alleging that I left the library because I couldn't manage it. Subsequently, she blocked me. Naturally, I was furious. I recalled the months of enduring her mistreatment, how she obstructed my efforts to improve teen programming merely to occupy time on her phone, how she had caused me troubles leading to my boss's termination over trivial matters, and countless other microaggressions too numerous to recount. Thus, I decided enough was enough, it's on. After taking a moment to collect myself, I returned online, only to find that Monica had realized her error. She had blocked me on Twitter and locked her account. That was perfectly acceptable to me, as I had already obtained what I needed. The pictures I had saved, those were taken at the library. Given our branch's sizable nature, it possesses various recognizable features identifiable to anyone who had ever worked there or even visited. Monica had documented several topless photos in the back cubicles. One specific image depicted her in her underwear amidst the stacks, as evidenced by the carpet pattern, and most notably, there was a picture of her exposing herself with the children's section windows visible. In the background, I collected these photos, crafted an email as a concerned, anonymous patron to the HR department from a burner email, dispatched it, and then awaited the fallout. The consequences were swift and began falling like dominoes. She was terminated in a record 2 days, and my friend in the Maker Lab informed me that she was escorted out of the building. The other staff members remained clueless about the reason, but news spread through the various branches. They needed to find replacements for her position, resulting in a continual influx of new faces pondering the cause of her sudden dismissal. Usually, even in terminations, the library afforded individuals 2 weeks to fill the vacancy. Eventually, someone serving temporarily must have had connections in HR, because that was when I began receiving messages simultaneously from literally everyone I had ever worked with, asking, "Did you know Monica was making pornography in the library?" Now, remember the children's librarian who had let me in on my first day and had recommended me for my promotion. And recall that Monica's other job was at the coffee shop across the parking lot. Well, following the incident involving Monica and my assistant manager's termination, this had a negative impact on my manager's record, which resulted in her dismissal as well. Being the librarian with the longest tenure, the children's librarian was appointed as interim manager. She had also caught wind of the rumors surrounding Monica, but had not been privy to the specifics until she reviewed the records as the new manager and learned about Monica's actions, particularly those photographs taken in the children's section, for which she was noticeably protective. Coincidentally, the owner of the coffee shop across the lot attended her church. After service, she approached him to discuss why Monica had been let go from the library. Apparently, there had been several incidents at her other job where coworkers suspected something inappropriate after noticing her disappearing into the walk-in cooler with her phone, but could never ascertain the details, preventing any action. After learning about the reasons behind her termination, including exposing herself, once again, in the children's section where his grandchildren play and select their books, he too terminated her employment. But wait, there is still more. Monica had been performing well enough in both her job's library and coffee shop that she had finally purchased a car. This was excellent news, until she found herself unable to make the payments after losing both jobs. Additionally, securing new employment became challenging, as her previous employers were not hesitant to provide negative references, clarifying the reason for her termination. Consequently, her car was repossessed after she defaulted on too many payments. She had also applied to the college where I worked, with aspirations to earn an undergraduate degree in English followed by a master's in library science. Unfortunately, she had to withdraw since her scholarship was revoked following her termination, and she no longer had a dependable means of commuting to campus. No job, no car, expelled from college before even attending her first class, could Monica's situation deteriorate further? Oh, it absolutely could. Her boyfriend was not aware of her taking these photos and posting explicit images online. When he learned from one of her former library coworkers the reason for her dismissal, It turned out she had deceived him about the entire affair. They subsequently broke up, and where had she been living? She ultimately had to return to her mother's home, who must have been intensely curious about her daughter's sudden misfortune. Apologies, Monica. It appears no one informed you that life was going to be this challenging.